Hello and welcome to Gefet in the Rabbanit Yael Shimoni, bringing to you together with Fadran in Yeshivat Drisha, learning Yun in your learning of the Kiyud of Daf Yomi. And today we're in Daf Yudalef in Masechet Nazir, and we have the sugya about Matnei al Mashikatuv B'Torah ben Nazir. And this sugya caused many troubles for the Rishonim and a lot of discussions about Tnaim and about Nazirut. And we're going to do Yun here and a little harder stuff than usual, because there are a few things that you have to know, basic things about Tanaim, so we can really appreciate the questions of the Rishon here. So if you're ready, let's get into it and see Tosfot and Ramban and maybe Greece Be'ezrat Hashem. So the Sugya starts with the Mishnah that says, if a man says that he's a Nazir, but he doesn't want to drink wine, so what happens? He is a Nazir, and he's still not allowed to drink wine. מתניתין, הריני נזיר על מנת שיהיה שותה יין ומטמא למתים, הרי זה נזיר ואסור בכולם. Okay, so this is a very interesting statement, because a person says, I don't want to be a Nazir if I will be drinking wine. I only want to be a Nazir if I'm not drinking wine. If I am drinking wine. So if he doesn't want to be a Nazir, how can he become a Nazir? How can it be that he is a Nazir, but his T'nai, what he said, does not exist? What was the other option? Well, if a person says, Yael, I want to be a Nazir, but I want to be a Nazir that drinks wine, I can tell him, listen, Nazirut is only if you don't drink wine. So if that's the kind of Nazir you want to be, you're not a Nazir. Nothing happens. You're not a Nazir. But that's not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says that this man is a Nazir and he's usher in wine. And that's the problem, because we had a different option, just to say that nothing happened, that there is no meaning to his words at all. And here, for some unknown reason, we are still taking half of his statement, turning him into a Nazir against his will. How could that be? So the Gemara asks, not that question, but he asks a different question. What is happening in this Gemara? Why is a person becoming a Nazir and not being accepting his T'nai? So Ravina says, ברישא לא פליג רבי שמעון מאי טעמא, משום דהבה ליה מתנה על מה שכתוב בתורה, וכל המתנה על מה שכתוב בתורה תנאו בטל. Ravina explains, says, if somebody says something against the Torah, his whole statement is erased. But what part of the statement? Only the statement that he tried to play around with the Torah. But the first part of the statement remains. But the question still stands. How can it be that a man becomes a Nazir against his will? To understand how hard this question is, we have to add more information about T'naim in general. T'naim in general have been learned from a parsha in the Torah. T'naim were not just learned from somebody's thought, because we might have thought that Naim or any rules that you want to change with the Torah are not relevant when it comes to things that God said. What God said is something static. You cannot play around with it at all. You want to make all kinds of rules and regulations and changes. That's something that you can do if you're making a contract between a human and another human, but not when you're doing something with the mitzvot of God. So how do we know that bichlal we can use T'naim when it comes to mitzvot? We learned this from a parsha in Masechet Dvarim, the story of Bnei Gad of Bnei Reuven. When Bnei Gad of Bnei Reuven came to Moshe and said, we don't want to go to Israel. We want to stay here in Ever Yarden. This is a good country for us. We're willing to help you conquer Eretz Canaan, but we don't want a part of Eretz Canaan. We want to have our homes here. And Moshe is very, very upset. And God tells him, it's okay. You can make a T'nai. You can make a T'nai. Tell them that if they will go first and conquer Eretz Canaan, finishing the conquering, then they will be able to go back and live in Ever Yarden. And if not, all of their place in Ever Yarden will be destroyed, and they'll have to be in Israel. So it's up to them, but they have to stand on the word, and this is the T'nai that they have to do. Okay, so we learned the whole idea that you can do a T'nai even on mitzvot, kibush Eretz Yisrael, right? But there's a machloket between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Chanina. What did we learn more than Mishpatei HaTnaim of Bnei Gad of Bnei Reuven? The story of Bnei Gad of Bnei Reuven is a very specific story with all kinds of things that happened only there. And if you read the Torah, you see that the way that Moshe phrases the Tanai is an interesting way. Moshe doesn't only say, if you will go conquer Israel, then you'll be able to live here and ever there. Moshe continues and says, and if you will not do what you were supposed to do, then everything will be destroyed. So Moshe does not only say what they have to do, he also says what will happen if they fail to do what they're saying they will do. So Rabbi Meir in Masechet Kiddushin says, כל תנאי שאינו כתנאי בני גד ובני ראובן אינו תנאי. שנאמר ויאמר אליהם אם יעברו בני גד ובני ראובן וכתיב אם לא יעברו חלוצים. Rabbi Meir said, if you want to do a Tanai in Divrei Torah, you have to use the same kind of wording that Moshe used. It's not enough to say, I want to be a Nazir if I don't drink wine. You have also to say, and if I will not be allowed to drink wine, then I cannot be a Nazir. You don't only say the yes, you only say the no. Only if you phrase yourself in that way, then bichlal we can talk. If you forgot to phrase the no, says Rabbi Meir, that's not a good Tanai, because all the time need to work exactly along the same lines that we learned in Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel in the Mishnah Masechet Kiddushin says, no, you don't understand. There was a specific reason for Moshe to elaborate. Says Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, צריך הדבר לאומרו, שאלמלא כן יש במשמע שאפילו בארץ כנען לא ינחלו. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel says the reason that Moshe used this strange wording, doubling his statement, not only saying what will happen, but what will happen if they will not do their deed, it's because we thought there would be a harder thing happening. We thought that if they would not stand in their deed, they'll be destroyed from the earth totally. And since God thought that if they will not stand in their deed, they will be able to live in Eretz Canaan, that's why Moshe used this special wording. But there is no need for you to say yes and no in every Tanai, because that wasn't the need there in Bnei Gad of Bnei Reuven. So this is a very famous machloket between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. And you should know that Rabbi Meir has been talking for halacha. Halachically, if you want to do a Tanai and mitzvahs, you have to use this wording, not only yes, but also no. Not only what will happen if I will do, but also what will be the result if I will not do what I said that I will do. So that's how you have to create each Tanai. Because of this rule of Rabbi Meir, and because we're assuming that our Mishnah here in Masechet Nazir is also according to Rabbi Meir, the question that we asked in the first place becomes even stronger. Why? Because if Rabbi Meir is right, and we're talking about somebody who doesn't only say what he will do, but also what will happen if what he wants will not take place, it means that a person said very, very clearly that he is not interested in being a Nazir. Here, let me demonstrate. The person said, Moshe said, I will be a Nazir if I can drink wine. And if I can't drink wine, I am not a Nazir, right? Because we're going according to the rules of Rabbi Meir. So we have a person who said specifically that he doesn't want to be a Nazir. How can it be that he's standing up to be a Nazir and he can't drink wine? Being a Nazir, you have to want to do it. You can't suddenly make somebody who doesn't want clearly said, obviously, he took words out of his mouth saying, no, I don't want to be a Nazir. I don't want to be a Nazir if I can't drink wine. And boom, he's a Nazir. It's very hard to understand. The same goes for Kiddushin. If a person says, I want to be Mekadosh you, but I don't want all the chovot. According to Rabbi Meir, there's another sentence that has to be said. And if I will be high up to you, then you're not Mekadosh. And the rule is that this woman is Mekudoshet. How can that be? Both Kiddushin and Nazirut, you have to have that. You have to want to become a Nazir. You have to want to be Mekadosh a woman. How can it be that if you said specifically that you're not interested, still halacha says you are a Nazir, this woman is Mekudoshet, but you never intended on doing that, you were against it. So that question is a very strong question. The Tosfot here asks this, and the Ramban asks it in different ways. And they look for solutions. So Tosfot in Masechet Ketubot Nunvav is a very famous Tosfot. I think I quoted it before. It says this Tosfot, Harezo Mekudeshet Uknao Batel. The Tosfot there is asking about a man who says that he wants to be Mekadosh a woman, only if he's not chayav for his chovot. And the Gemara says, like it said here, הרי זה מתנה על מה שכתוב בתורה, נאו בטל ומעשה קיים. Says the Tosfot, al kolchenu b'dekaf leiletnai ayre. We must read this Gemara and understand that this is with the double statement, like the Shita of Rabbi Meir. דאמר להם, אין לך עליי שצופונה רק מקודשת, ואם לאו אל תהי מקודשת. ותקאמר לקמן, דאמר לרבי מאיר, דתנאו בטל, משום דמתנה על מה שכתוב בתורה. והיא לא כפיל לתנאי, טיפוק לדתנאו בטל לרבי מאיר, משום דבית תנאי כפול. כדאמר באומר. So that's the question of the Tosfot and also the question of the Ramban. Let's move to the Ramban because this text is an easier text to read. The Ramban asks, similar to the Tosfot, and starts bringing terutzim and answers. Says the Ramban, "Ve'ikaman detarz." Some have answered, "Dehachi amar la al menat shetimcheli li shelo yitchayev lach b'she'er ksut v'ona, v'haitna lav tnai bidehu derchman achivei." ושובנה לא מציל למלחמי, הנה חינמי, והיא מחלה מדעתה בדרכי מחילתה מחילה. אבל שום תנאי לא, דרחמן אמר, ליקה לנשיא ואיתתה, ולא לחייב בשיר כסות ועונה. Says the Ramban, some people explained and solved the problem in Kiddushin. Let's go again to the situation of Kiddushin. The man says, Yael, I want to be Mekadesh you, but I don't want to be Chayav anything to you. And if I will be Chayav, you're not Mekudeshet. Halacha says, I am Mekudeshet. How can that be? Says the Ramban, some people said that when a person says that, I don't want to be Chayav, the person knows that means nothing. He knows that Mekudeshet is only according to Torah rules. So obviously, even though he said these words, he didn't really mean to do it not. So what is the meaning of all these words that are coming out from his mouth? Say that ikaman detaris, all these words are a request for me to be mochel. A man is saying, listen, I want to be mekadesh, but I don't want to be chayav. I know that there's no other way to do kiddushin, but I don't want to be chayav. Please be mochel. Be mochel my chova to you. And that's the way we read all of his words, because obviously he understands that he cannot be mekadesh without sherik suvona. So that was the way to solve the problem of Rikama Detalitz. Says the Ramban, this solution is bad. Why? Because of our Sugya and Nazir. Let's read the Ramban, and the Tosfot says the same, only a little in a little less words, but the Ramban here is easier to understand. Says the Ramban, V'kashya al hach terutza ve'ambinan b'masechet Nazir, hareni Nazir al minat shetamar l'mitim, הרי זה Nazir ותנאו בטל. ואימן, leika mechila. What is the difference between Nazir and Kiddushin? Kiddushin, there are two people. There's a man, there's a woman. Nazir, there's no other person. It's a person, a Nazir, man, between himself and between God. Of course, the Nazir is not asking to God, God, please be mochel. God is not mochel. Mochel is something that man can do. God is not mochel in his mitzvahs, and a person cannot be mochel to himself. So this teretz of mechila is not good enough. Why? Because of the sugya of Nazir. Our sugya creates a very big problem in understanding how come a person can say, I don't want to be a Nazir, I only want to be a Nazir in certain terms, and still he becomes a Nazir. We can't say it's mechila. We have to understand that these are real terms that he's putting forth. But again, if he's putting forth terms and he said specifically that he's not interested, he doesn't want to be a Nazir if he can't drink wine, how come he becomes a Nazir? So those are the questions of the Ramban and the Tosfot, and the Ramban gives us another answer. The answer of Rabbanit Yael. Says the Ramban, וניחא לי לרבנו תם ז"ל, דכל המתנה על מה שכתוב בתורה, הרי הוא כמפליג בדברים. דומיה דתנא שאי אפשר לקיימו בסופו דבטים. Rabbanit Yael says, when somebody says things that make no sense, we don't take his word seriously. We have that also in Gittin, when a man comes to one and says, here's your get if you float in the sky. Nobody takes seriously his talking about floating in the sky, because we know he's only saying these words to hurt this woman. He doesn't really mean seriously that she'll get the get if she's floating in the sky, because she can't. And that's why, if we look at it in our eyes, we only listen to the first part of his sentence and don't disregard the rest of it. So according to Rabbanit Yael, when we hear a person say I want to be a Nazir. If I can't drink wine, we listen only to the first part of his sentence, and the rest is he said all kinds of weird things, but we're not interested in anything else that came because it sounds as if he's maflig bidvarim. Says the Ramban, this is still not good enough from you, Rabbanit Tam. עדיין קשה, דניחא גבי גט וקידושים, אבל הדה נזיר, הכת אלוניך. היא אמרינן מפליגה בדברים הנמילה לאישה, דמציאו כמיכה ומלבודקה, אבל לעצמו, אינו גם מפליג בדברים. ומאי הרי הוא נזיר ותנאו בטל. So the Ramban says, Rabbanit Tam works great with Gitin and Kiddushin. I can understand that, because a person might say all kinds of things to annoy the woman that he's Kadishing or that he's giving a get to. But here again, we do not have another side. Who is this person annoying? He's annoying himself. The Ramban thinks that doesn't make any sense. And therefore he says, well, we're stuck. We can't work with Mechila. We can't work with Rabbanit Tam. We're still stuck. How can we understand Sugya and Nazir? We can understand Kiddushin, either with Mechila or Mafliga Dvarim. But Nazir, we can't understand. And the Ramban says in a Kushiyan, he says, maybe, says the Ramban, Ve'emar ahi Rabbanan. בחיי גב נראית לו בכלל הן אתה שולח עליו, להרי גמרים. אפשר להיות נזיר ולתבע למתים וטמא, ואם לאו, יהיה נזיר לגמרי. Says Ramban, if I go according to Rabbi Meir, this makes no sense. I must understand that our Gemara is not according to Rabbi Meir, it's according to Chachamim. And when a person said, I want to be a Nazir if I can drink wine, what he's meaning to say, I want to be a Nazir if I can drink wine, and if I can't, it's still okay. Because we're in the Shita of Rabbanan, and he was not meant to say another sentence, and if he said another sentence, he won't be a Nazir. But since he didn't say that other sentence, that's why he's a Nazir, because really his meaning was that even if his term does not take place, does not come forth, he's still willing to become a Nazir. So that's where Ramban stays at this point. So before we sum up, let's just add that in the Tosfot and Ketubot, the Ri gives a different answer. He doesn't get stuck like the Ramban, and he offers this answer. ואומר לי, גילו ילפינן מתנאי בני גד ובני ראובן, הווה אמינא דשום תנאי אינו מבטל המעשה. ואפילו לא יתקיים בסוף המעשה קיים. Says the Ri, yeah, you didn't fully understand what it means that we learn Tanaim from the Torah. If we see that we have to learn Tanaim from the Torah, it means that if the Torah was not right that terms work, terms would never have any effect on rules of the Torah. And therefore, any word that was a mitzvah would immediately take place. Now, the Torah is being mechadesha, that you can use terms. That is true. It's a big chiddush of the Torah. But it's only under Torah's rules. And the Torah said that only if you make terms that are according to the Torah rules, then I will listen to your term. But if you're using terms not according to the rules, who's listening to your terms? In the first place, we didn't think that terms would have any effect on things that God gave us. Who would have thought that a man can do any kind of terming with mitzvot of the Torah? So let's sum up the answers that we fought up till now. The question was, how can it be that if a person says, I don't want to be a Nazir if I can't drink wine, I only want to be a Nazir if I will drink wine, how can he be a Nazir? It's going against his will. How can a woman be Mikudeshet? It's against the Mekadesh's will. So we saw that we had 3 different explanations and one explanation that said, actually, we're stuck. What were the explanations? The first one was, in Kiddushin, the reason that why we're not listening to his words, because he's not really saying a term. He's asking for the forgiveness, for the mechila of the woman. That's a good answer for Kiddushin. It's a bad answer for Gitin. According to Rabbanit Tam, it's because he's maflig b'dvarim. He's only saying words to hurt the woman. And the Ramban says, okay, that's working for Kiddushin because there's another side, but it doesn't work for Nazir. There's no other side. There's no one to be Mitzayir. There's no one to be Mafli. So these 2 answers that worked for Kiddushin don't work very well for Nazir. The Ri says, you should know that all terms are a chiddush of the Torah. So don't be surprised that we're not listening to your terms. If you said a mitzvah out of your mouth, the mitzvah works. The fact that you said things afterwards, we only listen to them if they go according to the rules. That's the answer of the Ri. And the Ramban says, listen, until now I'm stuck. Truth is, this can't work with Rabbi Meir. This can't work with Rabbi Meir. We must read our whole sugya according to Rabbanan. The Ramban will have another answer, but we will see that in a moment. Another question that arises from the same problem of Mishpatei Tanaim is a question that Tosfot asks on the sugya. In Mishpatei Tanaim, as we said, we learn the whole rules of terms from Negad and Reuven. So besides the fact that you have to say Tanai Kafun, and besides other things that you have to have there, there is another rule. The rule is written in Masechet Ketubot. Masechet Ketubot that says, מכדי כל תנאי מאיך הגמרינן, תנאי בני גד ובני ראובן, תנאי דאפשר לקיומי על ידי שליח קייתם, הווה תנאי, דלא אפשר לקיומי על ידי שליח קייתם, לא הווה תנאי. In Ketubot it says, if you're saying a term on something, terms in halacha work only in fields that you can make somebody a shaliach to do that deed for you. In the story of Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, Moshe can make Yehoshua his shaliach, and Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven can make their children a shlichut. So that's why they can make terms on something that another person can work on. But anything that you cannot make a shaliach for, you cannot make terms for. What is a demonstration of something that you cannot make a shaliach for? Chalitza. When a man needs to be cholitz to a woman, his body has to be there personally. And since he cannot give chalitza to any other person to become shaliach, therefore he cannot make terms in chalitza. Gitin can make terms because you have to have a shaliach for gitin. Kiddushin can make terms because you can have a shaliach for kiddushin. But chalitza, you can't make terms. And I won't go more in depth in that sugya. That's sugya that we've learned before. We'll leave it at that right now. So Tosfot, when he comes to our Gemara about Nazirut, says Tosfot, wait a minute, I don't understand. How can you do any T'nai Nazir? How can you have this mission written bichlal? Can a person make another person a shaliach for him for Nazirut? Can I make you a shaliach to become me? But when I'm saying that I want to be a Nazir, I'm talking only about myself. It's something that is about me. It can't involve somebody else. So the whole story of T'nai doesn't make sense. T'nai cannot work in Nazirut. Terms should not affect Nazirut because it is something that you cannot make anyone a shaliach for. So that's what the Tosfot asks. V'im tomar v'tipulei d'Nazirut אי אפשר לקיים על ידי שליח. כדאמר הניר דבין נתנה דברו ידי גד בני ראובן שמתקיים המעשה על ידי יהושע של שליח משה ועתה מהנתנה לבטל המעשה ולא בעלמא. So that's another problem with this Gemara. It turns out to be very problematic. What are the answers for this? So we have three main answers in the Rishonim. Two answers in Tosfot and one answer in Ramban. Tosfot says, no, Yael, you're not right. You can make a shaliach for a Nazir. Shaliach for what? To bring your korbanot for you. אומר התוספות, ויש לומר, אחרי שהחגים יכולים להביא קורבנות תחתיו, נחשב כאילו כל המעשה יכול לעשות על ידי שליח. The Ramban brings another answer. אחרים אומרים in the Ramban, נזיר נע ממשכחת לידי שליח, שאומר אדם לחברו, הרי אני נזיר על דעתך, וכל זמן שתרצה תדירני בנזיר. So these are two answers that say, you don't understand, you can make somebody else a shaliach for Nazirut, not for the actual statement of Nazirut. You cannot have somebody else say the hafla'ah for you. It has to be from your mouth. That is true. But you can make all kinds of tricks. You can say to a person, I will be a Nazir the minute you say so. So like you're taking your words and you're putting them on hold, and that's shlichut. Tosfot says you can't say anything about the words, but somebody else can bring your korbanot for you. And korbanot are very important in Nazirut. The importance in Nazirut is not only saying that you want to be the Nazir, it's also bringing the korbanot at the end. It's a very interesting statement of the Tosfot. Ramban looks at this problem and says, I have another answer. Says the Ramban. ויקה למידע כנמי, תנאי שבנזיר החיה בתנאי, על כל תנאי שאפשר לעשות את השליח לפנאי הוא, כדי אמרינן לעניין חליצה. ויש אומרים כי גם רינן מתנאי בני גד ובני ראובן הנמילה כיוצא בו שהוא תנאי בין אדם לחברו, אבל תנאי שבינו לבין עצמו בכל עניין הווה תנאי. והטעם נותן שהרי מדעתו אתנאי ורוצה הוא לקיים תנאו. לכך לפני כפול לו בעינן והשתניח עלי דקה שלנו לאל ונכון הוא. Says the Ramban, Nazirut is it's different. Nezirut is not something ben adam lechavero, it's ben adam leatzmo. And therefore Nezirut does not learn from Negad of Reuven. It is true, all the world of terms learns from Negad of Reuven, only if it's similar in the basis of it. If I am making a term between me and another person, and it's about a mitzvah, I have to go according to the rules of Negad of Reuven. But Nezirut is a tnai between a man and himself, and therefore it's a different ballgame, and therefore you don't have to double the words, and therefore you don't have to be able to make anyone a shaliach. A nazir is a totally different story. It's not like kiddushin. It's not like negad neruven. It's a whole situation of a man between himself, and terms of a man between himself are not subdued to the rules of negad of neruven. I don't know if you feel it, but there's a very strong feeling that this question remained open, and Rishonim and no one here is very, very happy with his answers, and agrees, many years later, offered another explanation. The Greece said that you have to understand what does it mean, mile she'if shal asot b'shlichut. Things that are physical, you cannot really have somebody else do them for you. That's true. But words, saying a shir or giving a message, that is something that usually you are supposed to be able to give somebody else because it's only content. It doesn't really involve your body. So if you would ask me before the rules of the Torah, I would say that Nazirut, sure, I can have somebody else do it for me, and Nadarim, I can have somebody else do it for me. The only reason that we know that we can't do it is because the halacha said so, because we have a rule, so says the Greek, היכא דלייתא בשליחות אינו מצד גוף הדבר, מצד עיני שליחות כמו במילי, וזה ליקה כלל, וכיוון דלייתא בשליחות ליקה בתנאי. Says the Greeks, the t'nai, the rule that if you can't make somebody a shaliach, then you can't make a t'nai, it's only relevant if it's really a problem in reality, because you can't take your body and give it to somebody else and change your body in somebody else's body. But the zirut is not your body. It's still something which is about words and about intentions. And therefore, theoretically, you could have given it to somebody else to do for you. It is true that halacha said don't. But that's not a problem in the actual need. It's a halachic problem. And therefore, milei de lo matzeh b'shlichut is not relevant for nazir. So I want to sum up the second part of what we saw. Another question that arises from Negan of Neruven: how can we have the sugya about Tnai Benazir? Or Tnai Benazir is something that nobody else can do, and if somebody, you can't give them to be a shaliach, you can't do a Tnai. Tosfot said, don't worry, because for the korban you can do a Tnai, it works also here. Acharim and the Ramban said, oh, you can say, I want to be a Nazir, but only when you say that, and that's a kind of shlichut. These are two answers which are a little surprising. The Ramban says, I don't get these two answers. I think the Nazirut is something which is totally different, totally outside. It doesn't learn anything from the shlichut because it's between a man and himself. It's not between ben adam and chavero. And all these rules of Negad and Reuven are only things that have to do between people. The Greece says, listen, there are two problems with shlichut. One problem if it's a real, true problem, if it's about your body. But if it's a halak problem, that doesn't mean you can't make a shaliach. You can. Only halacha says you can't. Beseder. That doesn't mean it's not b'shlichut. It is b'shlichut. Only halacha says you can't do so. And that's why you can still do tnaim in Nazirut. So today we really did a lot of love this because this Gemara, it seems to be an easy Gemara, but it calls for many questions to Rishonim. We only dealt with two, and there are at least three more. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and you can look more on Rishonim here, but just know that the Gemara and Daf Yudalef and Nazir, also Daf Gefet, these are Gemara that created a lot of problems in understanding the whole world of terms and the idea that we learn the world of terms from Bnei Gad Uvnei Reuven. So I hope you enjoyed this new Masechta, and we'll meet again, B'ezrat Hashem, next week. Take care.